I'm not going to contribute to this narrative that we are a problem population. It's just not okay. And so, even yesterday we spoke at a conference at Southern, and I was extremely intentional. We were intentional that the first beginning slides were like, nope, these are successful people that grew up in foster care. Here are positive outcomes like Simone Biles, Carrie Hope Richmond, who's like an influencer. We're like, we're gonna start here. And then we'll talk about the need, but we're not gonna start with the need this time. We're gonna start with the positives because, it's important. The language we use matters. The framing we use matters because it then scopes the positionality we approach everything else with. Speaking of safety, I remember, like, bless his soul, my friend Nick, to this day, we're also still friends somehow. He's one of the few people that ever met my biological mom, and then we stayed friends in foster care. We were like in second grade together. I remember that, and maybe this is part of the reason I just thought everyone had a social worker, because I'm like, oh yeah, it's not a big deal. I remember at that time, and thankfully, the policies have shifted in Connecticut on this. But if you wind the clock back 20 years, I remember DCF had to do a whole house investigation to make sure that Nick's parents were safe, just for me to have a sleepover, because we were third graders and we wanted to watch Pokemon and the Mystery of Mew. And I remember to this day, because I remember his parents were making fun of us because we were talking about Pokemon, and like, this is, positively making fun of us, it sounds like you're speaking a different language. And I remember them mentioning, like, yeah, we had to do background checks and everything, and as a third grader, you don't think about that, but as an adult, I'm like, wow, bless their soul for doing that, but also, that's like setting up just social, just tension, right? Because how many friends do you end up losing like that? How much further away from normalcy do we move a kid from their peers? Thankfully, a lot of that shifted, but it wasn't like that for a long time.
Yeah, that's such a real thing, and I think like my biggest thing as a child welfare consultant and as just a youth advocate and youth empowerment advocate is bringing back that idea of normalcy and making sure that people see us for who we are. It's one thing to say that you see us and you hear us, but it's another thing to actually feel us. And a lot of the times that goes over a lot of people's heads. But even as I've been in this advocacy space almost 8 years now, the language is very, very important. I do not allow anyone to refer to me as a former foster youth. My name is Tawanna, first and foremost. And I think that that's very important because I've been able to reclaim who I am as an individual and to reclaim my story, which was a large part of it, like my upbringing was stripped away from me wrongfully. I did not end up in the system because of any fault of my own. I ended up in the system because of the faults of individuals who put me here and had the sole job of providing and taking care of me, and they failed deeply. So that has been a part of my healing journey, as well as like a part of like reclaiming my identity. I vividly remember like there was an article that someone had did on me, and the first thing that I noticed was former foster youth Tawanna Brown. And like that just like made me feel so small in that moment, because I had done so much work up until that point to reclaim who I was. Because the first thing I want somebody to know about me is me, right? Like, I don't want you to automatically count me out because you think that you know something about me because they labeled me. The entire time I was in the system, you are aggressive, you are disrespectful, you are this, you are this, you are this. And when you hear that for so many years, unknowingly it becomes your identity. And so many times people write out young people, especially when we're talking about teens, because of these labels that a social worker put on them, or because of the labels that the court system put on them. Whole time that young person just needed an outlet, because nobody would take the time to actually ask them, like, hey, I know we're going through this permanency planning, but what do you want? Hey, I know that you're having a hard time at school. What are you struggling with? How can I help you? So many times people are automatically trying to count us out or discipline us or, just automatically label us. And at the core, we're people.